I make music that electrify 'em. You make music that pacify 'em. I can double down on that line, spare you this time. It's random acts of kindness. I know you a master manipulator and habitual liar too. But don't tell no lies about me, and I won't tell truths about you. What's up, y'all? You know, something I've been talking about for a while now, because watchers of the podcast might know I was an Arrowwood kid. I used to read a bunch of Arrowwood stories when I was younger and study things in that general domain. So I know a lot about chemistry, and I know a lot about how chemistry interacts with people, right? I have known for a while now, before fentanyl was even a major thing in the news, that there are opioids that are 20,000 times the potency of morphine. And fentanyl is kind of an umbrella catch-all term for opioid derivatives. There are ones even stronger, much, much stronger, and there's probably ones even stronger than the one that I studied 5 or 6 years ago that's 20,000 times the potency of morphine. It has some crazy name that isn't like a chemical name, but instead is like J4289, something like that. The chance that it ends up in the water supply is the reason why it is a matter of national security. You could probably kill like 40 to 60% of a city by putting a large enough amount of that stuff directly into the place where the water gets distributed after being filtered. And then if the city just chooses to drag its feet on it because they're in on the conspiracy, well, you're fucked. And that's something to really worry about. So it's good to have that sort of shit on lock. So it's not coming to the country. It's being obliterated and destroyed rather than just kept by the police and their adjacent groups. Don't want that. You don't want the Pentagon to own a tremendous amount of fentanyl, right? Because whether or not it's coming from inside of the country, whether it's not it's coming from our border states, which is like 5% of the, like 0.5% of the fentanyl comes from our northern border. So the fact that Canada implemented the fentanyl as a czar is a little bit of overkill, but it's welcome because it's a serious issue. So yeah, it's good to keep that shit on lock. I was struggling so hard to remember East Grand Forks and Grand Forks the other day. Names are so stupid, because I remember the entire area in my head, you know, all the pictures of the area came flooding back, but not the name. Wanna know why? Because names do not contain the soul. Faces, personages, or rating out of personages, that contains the soul, not the name. Names are like the languages that they utilize to be spoken are tools, man-made tools that we use to try and cut stuff up into digestible chunks, right? Speaking of which, anything with daddy or mommy or treat in the advertisement, in the name and stuff, is likely slop targeting perma-babies. And I tend to see a lot of this in proudly owned Jewish businesses. They're employing this tactic constantly, and it's because they are either themselves incredibly infantile and just get, you know, bunch of money for nothing, or they're trying to make you infantile. I want to make you a baby that rolls over at any little bit of challenge. Gay people aren't a monolith, they say. I agree. They're a dualism, top and bottom. Speaking of which, Jewish people both love and hate African people more than anybody else. Very interesting. You'll see this. You'll notice this. Oh no! Elon froze contractor funds! No! My edgelord internet mentor! He's disappeared! No! My welfare might be in jeopardy! No! Oh, there's a variety of reasons why you wouldn't want to use powdered sugar. And here's why. Because if ever you have a police bust into your home and raid your home, they'll pick that up and they'll say, oh, this is cocaine. And then they'll get the testing kit out, sprinkle a bit of cocaine into that, and then you're fucked, right? I've seen it happen. Happens to good people. There's a lot of drug planting shit in this county. So Ivy has been working alongside shithead, monster, demon torturers for a very long time, and he's finally got a big out with DeSantis, who's connected to Israel. He's very happy right now, that little freak. I really tried to get Alton Edmond in the sheriff's office. He was a little bit aloof, and I ended up insulting him for being a kind of a coward who wears chintzy outfits and thinks that's enough. But I worked for his campaign. I worked very hard to try and get him elected. You know what I'm saying? It would have been better than what we have. Like, even if it's like lower than baseline, it's still better than what we have, which is way down in the fucking toilet. Speaking of which, McDonald's is happy to run their and every subsidiary company into the ground. Wanna know why? Because they specialize in real estate, not in feeding people. I was so pissed when I found out that they are the ones that fucked Boston Market out of existence. They're the motherfuckers that fucked Boston Market out of existence. These pieces of shit in McDonald's, one of the worst fucking fast food companies. Oh, buddy with Coca-Cola, probably the worst, drink company to ever exist outside of alcohol, but probably still included. One of the worst, if not the worst. So this Gemini of absolute sickness has been obliterating these wonderful companies like Boston Market that allowed people to get high quality food quickly while they're on the road. It was really good. It was an American institution. And just like Boston itself, where the first transgender pediatric clinic was opened, it's been run to the fucking toilet. And it's people like, DeSantis that ultimately are responsible for a lot of this, but McDonald's was an Indian guy, so, Elon, Vivek, DeSantis. It's just blurs together sometimes, but Elon, he has some hopes. There's some hopes that he ends up being good, because we got a couple of decades of him palling around with the United States for a while. He's going to be here for a while. Even if the system is completely and utterly defunct, he's not going to run out of here like all the people that are dependent on massive amounts of welfare, like the Israelis, who are just right now just trying to do a little victory dance and end zone dance in their own little cowardly, weak, pathetic little way. I wish all the women that Andy Warhol abused could step on him with stilettos for like an hour straight. That'd be great. That'd be wonderful. I'd love to see the video of that. Speaking of another disgusting piece of shit who doesn't deserve the famousness and power that he has, Keemstar. It looks fucking gross. He's got this shit-eating grin under this nasty, like, Imam Muslim beard. He's a nasty little man. What? A third one? A third one? Okay, so you know how political action takes a few years to bear fruit? This is all Pete Buttigieg's fault. There was another plane that crashed in, what was it? It was Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. I can't remember. There's a third plane that crashed. And I saw the footage, and that looked less like a plane than like a missile, but who knows, man? Who actually... Oh, Pennsylvania, that's where it was. But, yeah, man, you got Josh Shapiro and Nikki Haley signing bombs. Mike Pompeo might have signed some bombs around Pennsylvania, too. It could be just launching them on their own people, for all I know. But it could also be, Pete Buttigieg. It's all Pete Butt-Guy's fault. He was too busy kidnapping children to work, and this is, like, on paper proven. And the new guy has... well, not to mention the fact that his McKinsey company specializes in cutting function to the bone to save pennies. They're the guys that go into the jails and say, actually, they can survive on 1,200 calories a day. Yeah, while they're working? You piece of shit. Monsters. Absolute monsters. And, it's... The fact that that's the Democratic Party goes to show that really the Democratic Party, and I'll get into this a little bit more later on in the episode, the Democratic Party is more close to Nazism, funny enough. They're closer to Nazism, they're closer to Confederacy, they're closer to global slave trade. And from the looks of it, they're even more sycophantic towards Israel than the Republican Party even. So, that's sad. The new guy has barely had time to move his stuff into his office, and it's already a mess. I've been there. It's called assholes who don't clean up after their shift, or ever. Like when I went into Steak and Shake, we had to clean... I personally cleaned, like, shit that had been built up for months. And one of the guys was just like, oh, they're gonna get fired, man. No, you're fine. Just keep working. You ended up dying of a heroin overdose. So... Yep. Who really knows who's fighting in the Ukrainian military at this point? Could be Israel. I'll tell you this much. If I get drafted by a Zelensky DeSantis type, I just killed my officer. Or I just kill the people who are trying to drag me off to God knows where. Because God knows where they're actually dragging a lot of people off to. You know what I'm saying? They could be dragging Ukrainians off to human trafficking networks and then just putting Israelis in the drone operator seat. You know what I'm saying? And that legitimately wouldn't put past it. Like, I would just fucking find the easiest and quickest opportunity to murk the most powerful person in the area to destabilize obviously demon worshipping institution that I was attempted to be drafted into. I would not put up with that shit. Not at all. You start seeing kikes on bikes in your area, it's going to fucking shit. It's going in the toilet, my friend. So, yeah. I swear, glowies have abysmal humor. I swear. And they mostly specialize in sycophantism towards charismatic leaders, right? And I swear I never saw Bernie say any commie shit or talk about vaccines at all on the campaign trail. Bernie's voice boomed with confidence, while shrill Lizzie Warren shook like a leaf. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, you know, he's going senile. He's got to go senile in office, and he's going to make a mockery of the longest-running independent senator in the entire country. He's not a Democrat. He's an independent. Elizabeth Warren may not know it, but she's more of a Nazi than Elon or anybody else in power because she wants people to take vaccines without even knowing herself what's in it, which is population control. You're making people infertile, and you're making people sick, and you're the concentration camp manager, sweetheart. For real, though, if you're under 50, you don't get to make decisions on things like Social Security. Really, genuinely. I'm serious. Not joking. Just don't pay taxes if you don't want it. Just don't pay taxes if you don't want it. Just don't pay taxes if you don't want it, and you'll be fine. Not your problem, not your goose, not your gander. Don't worry about it. But if you're under 50, you don't get to talk about it. If you paid into the system for like 40 years, then you can talk about it, right? Unless you're somebody who will never, ever need it. At the same time, you actually don't see a lot of ultra-rich people pumping anti-Social Security propaganda. That's actually what started to sink Ben Shapiro's career, is his attack on a different country than his is their literal, like, pension system for their old people who literally worked, paid taxes, can prove that they paid taxes over a period of time. That's a safety net for the most vulnerable people who have worked very hard for our country. And Ben Shapiro tried to go against cutting. And you know what? I may have heard people like Null go against Social Security at one point or another, but it's not very popular. And the people who do that are completely and utterly dissociated from what's realistic and what's important. So, moving on. You want to know the best way to utilize Bitcoin? The second you buy it, use it. So you get actual market value. Anyone who owns a bunch of Bitcoin and is convincing other people to hoard it is selling. They're selling. They're trying to get their investment back out of it. But that's only in a Ponzi scheme. Like, Bitcoin still hasn't unlocked a lot of functionality. So it's better to just really, you know what actually matters? Bitcoin's not shit. The dollar ain't shit. You know what is shit? The ability to grow food. Sometimes with your own shit. You know what I'm saying? If you're not squeamish and you care enough to actually, like, put the work in to create fertilizer, which takes a little while, then you will have, if you're smart enough, an infinite supply of food, or at least enough to, like, keep yourself aloft if the prices and the market itself and the supply lines start to get all fucky-wucky. You really want to specialize in that. You don't want to specialize in hoarding money. I got money. Oh. Well, you know, if you got debt, that's bad, but that's also imaginary. If you got this money, which is debt, well, what does it apply to, right? So you got people like Bill Gates who do nothing and have, like, hydrogen-powered yachts and shit. Then you got people like Jeff Bezos who put like all of their money into their actual company and accrue way more profits out of that, stacking it into this behemoth. And then you have people like Elon Musk whose money is mostly like fluid and cloud-based, essentially. And it's ultimately, it all boils down to charisma. It all boils down to who you know. It does not boil down to how much money you have, and it never really has. Ever. So don't fall for it. Bitcoin's really good for fluidity. It's about fluidity, and that's where the volatility comes from, and that's why it's good for people who travel. That's why it's good for people who go from place to place to place, or have a job where they're staying in hotels and shit like that, and they can sell Bitcoin in this particular area, and in order to get some money back in their account, usually selling it for a pretty good deal, and then paying a little bit of a scalper price to the market Coinbase. That, you know, it's way more complicated than a lot of people are selling it as. And if anybody does have Bitcoin and they're trying to convince you to buy Bitcoin, take it with a grain of salt. Take it with some skepticism and actually look into what cryptocurrency is. And for the love of God, don't fucking buy Ethereum or any of that other shit. Don't buy Tether. Don't buy fucking Dogecoin with no market cap. Just don't. Just stay the fuck away from that shit. Bitcoin is the one that I've talked about before. It's the one that has the long enough you know, things like Ethereum are literally just to fucking fuck with the market, right? Fuck with the coin market. But Bitcoin is the one that actually shows itself to be kind of a legacy internet coin and has the most dedication backing it. So it's the one most likely to succeed. It's the one most likely to pay back out afterwards. Anyways, when something meaningful happens, you will continue to gain joy and peace from it, far after the initial event. That's serotonin. Serotonin is a survival mechanism. Dopamine is a coping mechanism. Copamine. So you want to make sure that you're doing stuff that gives you that long-term, that gives you the happiness waves far after the feeling of the initial event has passed. And when you see really good things happening with long-term accruals that genuinely pay off instead of like waiting for it to pay off and then, oh, I got a little bit of, and I can show it, and then, oh, and that all gets taxed away anyways through the coin markets. And it's, you know, you want to build your family, you want to build your home, you want to build your farm, you want to build the things that are actually important and that matter. Your health, most importantly, first and foremost is your health. It's the foundation of all things. Your physical health, then your mental health, and then financial health. Very, very dependent on whether or not you're getting fucking cancer. Very, very dependent on whether or not you just fucking die from an illness because you're not well prepared. And that shit does not happen. It's certainly not prevented by wearing masks. It's certainly not prevented by getting all 300 vaccines. Now, maybe if you're working outside a lot, get the tetanus, but I haven't gotten I used to be very scared that I was going to get tetanus. I've been getting dirt all up in my wounds. I literally, like, jammed my thumb with a rusty nail and it got like real bad infected, but I put some hydrogen peroxide on it. It had like little scab-like scars all around it, but it went away. You just need to, like, hydrogen peroxide gets inside of airless environments and bubbles and kills the bacteria, the anaerobic bacteria like botulism, like tetanus, that grows these things, and you don't need to have it in your blood. You don't need to have these antiseptics inside of your fucking blood. And I know that's not how fucking vaccines work, but your immune system will literally reset these vaccines in 7 years. So it's just better to get yourself a little bit of resistance, natural resistance, and weigh your options whether or not natural immunity or a vaccine is the appropriate thing. I would certainly never, ever in a billion years get the flu vaccine. If anything, I think a lot of these things are actually making the viruses that we have get worse, because the ones that get through that extra bit of immune system are superbugs at that point. It's the same thing with using bleach all the time as a disinfectant. Not only do you aerate that chlorine and poison people's lungs, you create superbugs in that 0.01% of the bacteria that survives and then propagates in that environment like a drought-resistant plant. Well, here's a good stream. Take care, y'all. Cheers.